The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. So thrilled to be here with you this morning. We're going to be live for the next 2 hours talking about autism and how you and I can be more effective, more efficient, working with someone on the spectrum, or if you are a person on the spectrum, how you can be more effective in all the things that you do. And really, I don't know why I even say that every morning, because when I think about it, it's really how all of us can be more effective. So my point is, whether you're on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, the things that we talk about here are beneficial to all of us. And we have a really amazing show lined up for you today. I'm very, very excited about it. It's a great way to end this week that's going to be a 3-day weekend. As I mentioned yesterday, we will not be here live on Monday because it is a holiday, but we'll be back Tuesday live. So just a programming note about that. In any case, we do look at autism from a 360-degree perspective, all the different things that come into play, the frustrations, the emotions, the funding issues. Oh my goodness, right? And I'm thinking of starting to call Fridays Frugal Fridays, because we always have our funding tip on Friday. And it is a part of this journey, figuring out how you fund the journey, how you put food on the table while you're helping this intervention. It can be very devastating. I know firsthand. I always like to remind all of you that while I am not an expert in autism at all, and I'm not an expert in the legal issues, or I'm not an expert in ABA, I'm not an expert in biomedical intervention, I am not a nutritionist, but I'm a mom who has been on this journey for more than 7 years now with my son. He was diagnosed at the age of 2.5. He's 9.5, and he's doing remarkably well, and I'm ever so grateful. But I do know firsthand some of the different things that you go through on this journey, and I certainly am familiar with the financial thing. Whew. Yes, familiar. And I know how important it is to save money and to save time, because we've all heard over and over and again how important it is to get as much quality therapy for our children as early as possible. So the time is important and the money is important. And I want you to know that before we start every show, my main thought is let's find a way to help at least one person today, and at the very least to save them 5 minutes and $5. Of course, we hope to help many more people hook up with information and save more than 5 minutes and more than $5. But if we can get at least 5 minutes and $5 with one person, then I feel like we're making headway, right? So my job here really is, job number one is to help and support you on this journey in whatever way you need. And I do need help. I always like to say I gave up mind reading to be an autism mom. So I can't always know, because our journeys are individual, I can't know automatically what you're facing right now. So we encourage you to talk to us, tell us the kinds of information you need, the kinds of help and support that you need. There are so many ways to interact with us. Emily's going to start to show you some of the different ways that you can interact, some ways that you can talk to us, some ways that you can view the show. All of them are free, by the way. And while she's showing you all of the list of ways to interact with us, I want to remind you that there's only one way to watch us live, and that's www.autism-live.com. We are live from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the United States. And if you're doing the math on that, that means from 10 a.m. to noon Pacific Standard Time, which is our actual time. And you'll have to do the math on every other place in the world, but we're 2 hours live Monday through Friday. And if you go to Autism-Live, though, the show plays 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. just on an endless loop. But many other ways to search specific topics. If you just need some help and support, tune in whenever you want. As I said, it's free. But if you're looking for something specific, let's say you go, it's Saturday afternoon, it's 2 o'clock where you are, and you think, I need to know about toilet training, and I need to know now, and I don't want to have to pay money I want some information. Great way to find that is to go to our YouTube page, which Emily was just showing you. Go to the YouTube page, and in the search feature, type in a couple of keywords and say toilet training, and all the interviews that have to do with toilet training, all the experts that we've had in will pop up. Again, it's free, and we encourage you to take advantage of the information in that way. And by the way, I would be remiss if I didn't add that we're also available in a new app that you can find in the iTunes store, and you can also find it in the Google, the Android Play Store. And it's free. It is called the Autism Speaks Network, and it is an entire network of different programming that has to do with autism. We are a part of that, and you can download our shows and clips on that app for free on your devices, and you'll also find other programming on that network as well that may be of interest to you. Again, it's free. We do like free because, as I said, it's Frugal Friday. We're saving money, right? Because we have more important things to spend money on. Well, that's not true. I mean, information is paramount, but if we can get the information free, then we can use the money for other things, right? Okay. We like to start every morning with something that I fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. I really think of this as our morning warm-up. We take a little slice of time to take one word, one phrase, one acronym, and try to make sense of it in a way that we can relate to it. So often we're sitting in an office and people are batting around these words. They're experts, and we're there spending money and time to figure out what's up with our child and how we're going to help our child or how we're going to help ourselves, right? And these words get used, and it really very quickly can be very overwhelming. I certainly experienced that. But I am a big believer in making friends with the jargon. It does save time and money if you understand what's being said. And we can't do that overnight, but if we do it a little bit at a time, that's why it's our morning warm-up, right? Okay, so all this week we've been featuring new jargon. I've called them the disses. And this is a really interesting term that we're going to talk about today. It is dyspraxia. And if there's a word in there that sounds kind of familiar to you, you'll understand why in a second. So let's take a look at what our actual definition is. Dyspraxia, a partial loss of the ability to coordinate and perform skilled purposeful, I'm borrowing these lips today, purposeful movements and gestures with normal accuracy. Okay, and then our kind of watered down, user-friendly working definition is a motor learning disability. Now, realize that we've had apraxia as our jargon term before, but I wanted to put dyspraxia in because it may come up. I think it's a little bit less likely for dyspraxia to come up than apraxia. But I wanted you to see what the whole heading is. And again, what's key here for us to understand is that when it's dyspraxia or it's apraxia, it is that there is an inability to be able to do it. So if you're asking someone to pick up a cube and they physically cannot do it, they want to, you see the eye contact and that they're wanting to pick up the cube, but they physically cannot, and cannot get the message from the brain down the arm to do that, that's the kind of thing we're talking about. It's not a choice. It is an inability to do that. So when we're talking about apraxia with autism, and apraxia just in general, but you may have a child on the autism spectrum that gets diagnosed with apraxia, we're talking about a child who is not able to get the message, the physical message, from their brain to their mouth to coordinate the movement movements to be able to produce sound. It is a very specific thing. Now, we do see some children on a lot of children on the autism spectrum who do not vocalize and do not speak, that we can do very specific techniques with them to get them first to produce sound and find it reinforcing. And then as we strengthen the muscles, right? It's not that the signal isn't getting there. Sometimes we have to, well, in all children, we have to strengthen the muscles, right? No child comes out of the wound being capable of saying oscillating sprinkler. The musculature is not there for it. It grows in time. The more they eat and they chew and they start to say words, the musculature happens. But we will see children on the autism spectrum who don't vocalize and don't begin to speak, but we can target that and make it very reinforcing for them. And over time, the musculature comes together and they're finding it reinforcing. We'll teach them manding so that they get the reinforcer by asking for it. But when you have a child with apraxia, there's another level, and it is that the child wants to, and they cannot physically. They cannot. Now, there is still treatment and therapies that they can do to help those children. That is not a lost cause, but you're going to approach it in a different way. It is an actual physical disability that is preventing them from being able to do it. So it wouldn't matter how big the reinforcer was that you offered them. They're still going to have a difficulty and be unable to do it, right? Really very important if somebody is talking about apraxia with your child to let everyone know on your team what's happening, because you will approach it in a much different way. But again, nobody gives up hope. There are lots of things that can be done for apraxia, very specific speech and language pathologists who are trained to deal with that specific issue. So there is our overriding term, though, dyspraxia, a motor learning disability. Okay, we also like to start every morning with a question of the day, something to get you thinking, get you talking to each other, get you talking to us. We encourage you to participate by putting your answer to the question on Facebook or tweeting or emailing, any way that you would like to. We were talking about this just this morning. The Twitter thing, I need to have somebody come in and show me, and I know some of you have said you're not as much into Twitter. I do find Facebook very user-friendly for me and my schedule and my time, right? I can go and get snippets, and what I love about when you guys interact on Facebook is that you start talking to each other and you lift each other up and you say it's going to be okay to each other. And I really love that. And that's what we can see, right? What we don't see sometimes, because I know there are plenty of times I go on Facebook and I look at something and I may not comment about it, but it changes my day. It changes the way I look at things. It changes the way I approach being with my child. It does lift me up, and it makes me ask different questions. So I really encourage you guys to say what you want to say on Facebook, because you never know who it reaches and whose life it can't impact and change forever. So our question of the day, and honestly, today's a great day to interact in this way. What is the biggest challenge you have overcome? And, it's great to talk about this for many reasons. First of all, we need to own and celebrate when we overcome something, right? It's not a pride thing, but being able to say, all right, we did something here. And it wasn't easy, but we did it. I think that that's a really important thing to acknowledge. And of course, the bigger picture is that when you write in and say what you've overcome, you teach the world that it is possible to overcome what you overcame. And that, you have no idea. I'm sure there is somebody out there today who needs to hear that, who needs to know that, okay, somebody else did this. This is not crazy. This is not outside the realm of possibility, whatever it is. Whether you lost 250 pounds or you were able to be successful in getting your child on the autism spectrum to speak. Just last night, I mentioned earlier in the week, we were going to go to Disneyland for Valentine's Day, and we did. And I'm not a big person to ride rides, but my husband and my son are, and I get to read my book. It's a lovely, lovely thing, and I get to see their smiling faces. It's fabulous. They were in Cars Land last night and riding, there's a tractor ride that's sort of like a updated tilt-a-whirl, where you're in your own little tractor and you're sitting in the car behind the tractor and it swings you around. And they rode the ride and they got off, and my son came running up to me, goes, "Mom, Mom," and I said, "Yes," and he goes, "Those kids have autism." And I thought, oh my goodness, what is he doing? And this mom turns, and she's got two little kids with her, and she turns and she's just grinning, and I'm thinking, okay, what's happening? I don't understand. My child is like screaming in an amusement park, pointing at children, saying that they have autism, and the mom is thrilled. Well, okay, what did I miss? And apparently they got into a conversation. I don't know how these things come up, but they got into a conversation right before the ride started, and this mom of 6, this fabulous mom of 6, has 2 kids on the spectrum. So here we are off the ride. We have a brief conversation, and she was describing one of the things going on about language, and so here I am with my 9-year-old, and I said, yes, you know, he lost all language. I had to put my head on his hand. I said, he lost all language, and we didn't know if he was ever going to speak, and I said, you know, and you can see the child frequently does not stop speaking. And she had this big grin, and she said, oh yeah, when I heard him talking, she went, oh, I knew, hey, that's good then. And I forget sometimes how much at that point in the game I would look and go, oh, your child has autism and they're speaking and they're going to college, and we all need that. We need to know that the possibilities are there. So write into us and tell us, what's the biggest challenge you have overcome? I guarantee you we'll never know who all it affects, but I guarantee you it'll change somebody's day, and that's a great thing to do. Okay, we always have a topic of the day, a topic really of the week, and our topic this entire week has been problem solving. And we've been talking about it all this week from a perspective of the adult perspective of how are we going to solve the problem, of how are we going to solve the funding issue, how are we going to solve what we feed our children, how are we going to solve when our child is engaged in this challenging behavior. And we're going to continue talking about that, but we're also going to look at things from another perspective today, about how we teach problem solving to our children. And I guarantee that when you hear about this, it's going to open your eyes to a couple of different things and maybe help us with our problem solving too. You know, when we teach really good skills to our children, we inadvertently run the risk of learning something ourselves, which I absolutely love. Former teacher, I love to learn. And I love it when I learn something new. And I think you're going to learn something new today. In any case, some of the different things that we have going on in the studio today. Oh, I clicked something I shouldn't have. There we go. Okay, we're debuting a new segment in just a few minutes that I'm really, really excited about. It's called Real Progress with Dr. Adel. Dr. Adel Najdowski, who is the Director of Skills, and you know I'm a huge skills fan. She's going to be joining us in just a few minutes and taking on how do we teach problem solving to our children. What a fabulous gift to give them the skills, real life skills of solving problems, identifying them, coming up with solutions, checking to see if the solutions work. I know, it's exciting. So she'll be with us to talk about that a little bit later on in the program. We will be joined, because it's Friday, by Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. Of course, we're always talking about research with him. And while we have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox with us today, we are going to have a guest from Lineagen join us via Skype. And we talked a little bit about this on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I mentioned that there is an open house on Tuesday here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California, and you can still register for it. The folks from Lineagen are going to actually be here in the building. They're going to have a lovely open house to talk about why you might want to consider having your child tested, to look at genetics to see what your child's genetic profile is and what that might inform you and your caregivers and your ABA providers and everyone else, your doctor, about how to be the most effective, efficient treating autism with this genetic profile. I'm really excited to hear about this today. And again, we will be joined by somebody via Skype to talk about that. And we'll have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox here. So we'll have a hope of figuring out and understanding the impact of this, what it could mean to us and to our kids. Very, very exciting. But again, if you want to register for that open house and you're in the Southern California area, want to encourage you to go onto centerforautism.com and register, because there are only a certain number of spots to be there. But Lineagen, this isn't something they're doing only in Southern California. So you'll definitely want to tune in the second hour of the program to see that with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. Okay, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to be joined by the fabulous Dr. Adel Najdowski, and she's going to tell us about teaching, it's real progress, because that's what we're all about, teaching our children how to problem solve. It's very exciting. Stick with us.
Nick was nonverbal till he was 2 years old. We had lots of behavioral problems with him, and we had a lot of social problems at school that were somewhat mysterious.
Nick Yates was diagnosed with autism at an early age, but he didn't begin receiving intensive ABA until he was 5 years old.
4, 5. Fantastic, Dee. Give me 5, buddy. All right.
Despite great progress, Nick, like so many young individuals on the spectrum, was bullied throughout his school years.
I just want to be able to be a regular kid out there in the world and get along with others.
By the time he was a teenager, Nick's progress was significant enough that he lost his autism diagnosis and was deemed recovered. Today, Nick is a charming, socially savvy college senior who travels and is an emotional speaker on the subject of autism and recovery. I sat down with Nick recently to talk about autism through his eyes and his reaction to the Sandy Hook shootings. So Nick, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Shannon.
You know, I always enjoy an opportunity to talk to you.
Me too.
So Nick, you're a college student.
Yes.
And you're in your
My final year.
final year.
Yes.
And thinking about potentially becoming a teacher.
Correct.
And what would you like to teach?
Either social studies or humanities.
So high school or college?
High school or middle school.
Wow.
Yes.
And why that age range?
Well, somebody has to do it.
That's
And
true.
I'm up for things that are challenging.
Okay. I'm wondering, when people ask you to explain autism, what do you say?
It's really not easy to explain simply because it affects everybody differently.
Yeah.
But when you look at the commonalities, what you find are people who have a lot of problems interacting socially and communicatively. So that's only part of it.
Yeah.
But that's really what a lot of those affected by it have in common.
Absolutely. I know you met Jack Riley, the little boy in the A word. And you and I had an opportunity to talk about that. That was a little bit of an emotional thing for you to meet.
It was,
him.
and you know, I was talking to his father, and before I was supposed to hang up, he interjects saying that he wants to talk to his brother. By his brother, he meant me. And I cannot tell you what that meant to me.
That's a wonderful thing. So I have to ask you, we had some events in the world at Sandy Hook. The following day, news started to come out where they were attaching autism to the event. What did that feel like for you and for your family? What kinds of things were you guys talking about?
We weren't happy with it,
Yeah.
all right. I'm certainly not happy
Yeah.
with the link. There's no research that shows that those who are affected by autism or related disorder are far likelier to be perpetrators of such violence than victims.
People with autism are no more likely to commit atrocities than anyone else. The sad truth of the matter is that individuals with ASD are far more likely to actually be victims of violence and bullying than they are to commit it themselves.
I think also what needs to happen is that we start to value mental health care professionals a lot more. Because I believe that if we did, then we wouldn't have had as many incidents as what happened
I agree.
the other week. And also in Oregon or Wisconsin or Colorado.
Absolutely.
Because any death is wrong if it's a murder.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Nick, I so appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about this and to give us your viewpoint, because I always appreciate your viewpoint on everything.
Thank you.
And if there's one thing that you wanted people watching to know about autism, what would it be?
I wish that some people would realize that there are those who have far greater disabilities than those affected by a disability such as autism. In particular, this kind of disability is one that is invisible, and it's a lack of empathy or understanding or love. And we need a lot more of that. The best anybody can do is be themselves and treat everybody as they would like to be treated.
Absolutely. Right. Do unto others
Yes.
as you would have done unto you.
And practice what you preach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest in the studio right now is Dr. Adel Najdowski. She is the Director of Skills. We're so thrilled to have, we're calling this new segment Real Progress with Dr. Adel. So thrilling to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we're going to be talking today about, tell us, what are we talking about?
Well, I've been told your topic of the week is problem solving.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm very excited because we've been looking at it from the parent point of view, but I'm excited to hear from you about how do we teach problem solving to our kids.
Right. So basically, we kind of start by looking at the age of the child. The younger the child, the simpler the technique that we're going to be dealing with. So normally the kind of problems they're dealing with is another child taking their toy away or not getting access to something they want. So for that kind of skill, which kids start using sentences around 2 years of age. They're able to request for help around that time. We'll start by teaching them those kinds of things.
Okay.
And we'll set up situations, like contrive different situations, and prompt them through it and get them to do the correct response. And then once they start to have real problems in real life, we'll do it in those situations as well.
Okay. Okay, but important to start very early.
Yeah.
Okay, to prime the pump, so to speak.
The point of this is that a lot of young children are tantruming and doing those kind of things. So if we can get in there before the tantrum starts and teach the child to ask for help. So at a very young age, what we're mainly focusing on is teaching them to ask for help when they're in problem situations.
Okay, great thing to know.
It's not necessarily that they're even able to identify that there is a problem or call it a problem or engage in certain behaviors to figure out what the solution is or anything like that. It's just giving them some sort of empowerment when they're in that problem situation.
Okay, and really, we're even before it happens, what we're doing is replacing a behavior that could happen later on, which would be tantruming. So we're prompting them to in some way request for help.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And that could be vocal, or they could request it by sign or pointing to an icon, but asking for help.
Holding up something,
Right.
Yeah, anything.
Okay, great. And then as it progresses and they get a little bit older, it gets a little more complex.
Right, right. So at about 3 years of age, 3 to 5, children start to actually tell their parent when there's a problem.
Okay.
So they'll go to their parent and say there's a problem.
Now this is for neurotypical children we're
Yes.
talking about, that's when that starts to emerge.
Yeah.
So how do we begin to teach a child on the spectrum who isn't doing that automatically to do that?
Well, basically what we are going to be doing is setting up, again, lots of situations.
Okay.
And then role playing and things like that. So asking the child leading questions, things like, is there a problem? Or what's happening? Or what's wrong? Or something like that. And then teaching them to identify what it actually is. And then, of course, there's different kinds of problems as well. There's more like non-social problems, which would be something like maybe they can't reach an item they want, or something can't be opened, or something broke, or something like that. But then, of course, there's also social problems, like they're in a conflict with another person. And those are two totally different things.
And we want to teach them separately?
They both need to be taught. Yeah, and once you're working on social problem solving, you have to actually teach the child to take the perspective of the other person. So, it gets pretty complicated.
Okay, so a little bit more advanced skill.
Yeah, but there's basic steps for teaching these things.
Okay.
The first thing is helping the child to identify when there is a problem.
Okay.
And to be able to define it and figure out what it is.
Okay.
And then the next step, also there's a visual, if you could go ahead and put it up, that kind of shows all these steps. And this is something you can use when you're teaching the child. It's always nice to have visuals to show them step by step how we go about solving a problem.
And we've got a visual up right now.
Right.
Is this the right visual that you want? Okay, great.
Yeah, so remember too that it's not until about 6 years of age of typical development that children start to solve problems on their own.
Okay, so we don't have the expectation that they're going to be able to do all of this at 3, but we're helping them to do we're filling in some of the steps for them?
Yeah, so from about 3 to 5, they're going to their parents to say there's an issue.
Okay.
And their parents usually walk them through it and help them solve the problem.
Okay.
So they can begin using these visuals that I was just showing you and walk them through the steps. The child's not doing it 100% independently yet. Like I said, around 6 years of age is when they actually have a problem and they'll come up with solutions and start to solve it on their own without involving a parent.
Emily, can we go briefly back to the visual, just because even when you were showing this to me this morning, I was noticing that sometimes I don't participate in all these steps. So we first we have a problem, we're asking for solutions, and then we take a look to see whether we have a good outcome or a bad outcome, and we arrive at, did it work? And sometimes I forget that step as an adult. So what a great thing for all of us to learn and come up with different solutions and then check, did we implement and say, did it work?
Yeah, so when they're younger, we're literally just taking them through these steps, but we're teaching them and saying, here's how you do this.
Yes.
So then someday when they have a problem on their own, they'll remember these steps, and they can always use that visual if they needed to get through it.
Great. And so often, we'll hear people say, teenagers, how do I teach my teenager? And we can start to do this at whatever point, but how great if you started this at 2 or 3.
Yeah, and even just thinking about when you're solving the problem of a few different options of the solutions, and really considering the pros and the cons of each of those options, and then choosing which one you think is going to have the best outcome for you, because that's a whole strategy right there that's really important to use later in life.
Absolutely.
And then picking what seems to be the best option and implementing it, and like you said, checking in and seeing if it worked or not. If it didn't work, what can I do instead? So that's a whole nother issue, which is if the problem is still there and it's not solved, then we kind of have to go back to the beginning of the diagram and think of more solutions, and we have to continue to persevere until we solve the problem. So we're now going to be using our flexibility because we're generating alternative solutions and things like that.
And we all need to be doing that, all of us. Okay, now you also have some great strategies that you can talk to us about.
Right, so there's another visual. This is actually just one of the pages. There's a few pages of these visuals that we have available. This is all in the skills curriculum. And basically the idea here is now we're talking about social problem solving.
Okay.
Okay, and when we're in a social conflict, there's a whole lot more things to think about. So we have these banks. This is one page of our bank that gives them possible ideas. So for example, the you go, I go solution would be like if they're not agreeing about what to do together when they're playing. So in terms of like sharing or something like that. So you go, have a turn, then I'll have a turn. So that's one possible solution. Another would be if we don't agree on what to do, can we come up with a third alternative? That's the one that says third choice, that we both agree on that we would like to do. Or if there's a bunch of kids involved in this whole thing, well, majority could possibly rule. That's another option. We could ask for help. That's an option in our bank. First, second just means, let's say we both want to do ball play, but I feel like playing catch and you feel like playing more like soccer. Let's do your thing first and then we'll do my thing. I give, you give is just compromising. So everyone kind of gives in a little or something like that. Persuasion is a whole nother thing we can teach, and that's a whole nother area in the skills curriculum within our cooperation and negotiation lesson, but we begin to teach them ways of kind of talking people into things. And then distract, that's another option. This is something they can use with like a really young baby, toddler, sibling or something like that. Because oftentimes when they're that young, they'll forget there even is a problem.
Right, right. You
so
distract
anyway,
them.
These are only about 8 of the many, many items that we have as options, but we'll teach them these strategies, and then they can use these visual banks to refer to these when they're kind of thinking of different solutions.
And what a lovely thing. And as a parent, you can start out using this visual bank to say, okay, what do I want to teach right now? What different options do I want to teach? Because sometimes in the heat of the moment, you're overwhelmed and your brain shorts out.
Oh, yeah.
And so to have this visual representation to say, okay, here are what some of our options are. It's by no means exhaustive, but a place to start.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely incredible.
And the last thing I always want to make sure is, and every week when I come in, if we're going to talk about teaching a new skill, you're going to hear me say this every single week, but I think it's the most important take-home point when you're teaching anything, is you don't consider the child to have learned the skill or have mastered the skill until you've taught many, many, many different examples of whatever it is you're teaching. And now when a new example comes into their life, they just can do it on their own without being taught. So they don't really have the skill until they're generalizing, and that's what we call generalization. So for all of these things, we'll have to continue to contrive different situations, have real life problems, and kind of step back a little and fade yourself out and see if the child can do it or not. And if they can't, then get back in there and just continue to represent example after example until they can, any new example that they're presented with, they can go through this, and then you know they got the skill.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Really spectacular. And they can find these visual banks in skills.
Yes, it's in the problem solving. Well, actually, we have 3 problem solving lessons.
Okay.
So it's in those lessons.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Dr. Najdowski is going to answer a question that's come in from our viewers about skills. So stick with us. Currently, in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism, my beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're going to take the chickens. But things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Grandpichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
2nd.
You are a smart cookie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
We are extremely grateful for the amazing job CARD has done in helping our daughter. Our daughter today, just in 4 months, I think is a totally different child than when she started with CARD. I kind of see it as, it seems like her brain in a way was asleep, and now that we've gotten so many services, we've seen her wake up.
It just has some gases.
Recovery is possible if you take the right steps, if you're willing to put in all the hard work. And 7.5 years, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's worth every little bit, and CARD's been there with us every step of the way.
I have 2 children with autism. I can't imagine a day without CARD or the therapists. They've been so instrumental in helping us with our kids and shaping their lives and helping us help them.
Thank you, Christina Big Alex.
Thank you, Jackie and Mariana.
We've tried other things before ABA, but the most beneficial thing has been ABA services, and I'd be the first person to tell any newly diagnosed family that you have to contact an ABA provider, and if you're lucky enough to have CARD, you're very blessed.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable, and recovery from autism is possible.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have with us here in the studio Dr. Adel Najdowski. She is the director of skills, and you know I talk about this all the time. I love skills, use it at home. But from time to time we get a question from viewers, and we've asked Dr. Najdowski to come in and answer those questions. So, right. Dr. Najdowski.
Okay, so one recent question that we've gotten is, will skills tell me exactly what to do with my child? So this is a good question. A lot of parents want to know if it's going to tell them exactly step by step what to do. And it's kind of a long answer. Okay. But basically, the first answer to the question is that in order to use skills, because skills is a curriculum, they need to have training in how to teach children with autism things. And skills can be used with any teaching paradigm. It doesn't have to be ABA. So if people have other kind of methods that they prefer to use, that's fine, and they could still use skills as a curriculum. Mm-hmm. But they at least need to have what teaching method are they going to be using. If it's ABA that they want to use, and they don't know how to do ABA-based intervention, then there's definitely places they can go to get that information. Institute for Behavioral Training, which their web address is ibehavioraltraining.com. If they go there and click on e-learning, they can actually take a bunch of courses to learn, and it's all online, very easy to do anywhere.
Very inexpensive too.
Yeah.
Amazingly inexpensive.
Yeah. And it teaches them basically how to implement ABA-based procedures and techniques for teaching skills and for dealing with challenging behavior.
Okay.
But the thing is once someone's trained in all that, that doesn't mean they know what to teach a child, right? So they don't necessarily know what's age appropriate for their child, what their individual child's deficits are, that they should focus on, and all these other things. That's what the point of skills is. So skills is a curriculum that once you have your background knowledge on how to teach, you begin to use skills to figure out what to teach. Okay. So how to teach versus what to teach. How to teach needs to be in place before you're using skills. Okay? All right, then once using skills, it does provide it's step-by-step in terms of within the lessons. All the lessons have activities that are numbered, so you can follow that order if you want. It's not required, though. You're going to find some activities when you read them, you think this isn't going to really be relevant to my child in their life, so why waste time teaching it? We're not going to dictate you have to follow a certain order. Right. But the way skills works is that you answer assessment questions, and based on how you answer them, you get access to certain activities that you can choose to put into your child's treatment plan. Now, there's a lot of activities in the skills program. There's 4,000 or so.
Yeah.
So if you find a lot of things your child can't do, you're going to have a lot of options. That's where I think sometimes parents get a little bit confused because they say, like, there's so many options, I don't know which ones to do, and I thought skills was going to tell me the 10 or 15 that I should be doing. Mm-hmm. So we do have quite a few tools in place to help people to decide which ones to teach. But the reason that we don't just say, here's the 15 you should do, is because there's too many other variables involved in deciding that. Yeah. For instance, how many hours a week are you going to be doing with the child? How long does the, if they're getting ABA, let's say, through a consultant or something that you're paying, how long do you have access to that person? Is it for 6 months, or is it for however long you want? Is it a couple of years? You know, those kind of things. Your whole goals on what you're going to work on is going to shift based on these kind of things. What are your resources? What's relevant to the child's real life and will actually be maintained in those settings? Yeah. What does the teacher want? What do you want as a parent? Skills cannot figure out all those things, and so we're not going to say, here's the 15 things that you need to do. Yeah. Instead, we say, here's all the things your child needs to learn. Okay? And then we provide 5 tools to help you pick which ones of those you want to introduce. So every lesson's in a level. Start with lower levels. Every activity has an age associated with it. You may want to start with the younger things first to fill in those gaps. All the activities are numbered, so if you definitely know you want to teach a certain lesson area, you can follow the order. And all of the activities have prerequisites listed, so that means check those out first. And then the 5th thing is all the activities have a certain type of label, or they're a certain type. So they're either a fundamental skill, which is like a milestone or real skill children engage in daily life, or they're a building block, which is not a real skill. It's more like, here's the real skill, but some kids can't just go straight there. So we broke it down first, and we're going to teach these little steps before we get to the real skill. Right. And then we have what's called an expansion skill that goes above and beyond a fundamental. It's like an enrichment activity, not necessary for every single child. So look at your child and ask yourself, what kind of learner is my child? Does my child fly through this curriculum really fast and learn really quickly? If so, I might not need building blocks because they're not the real skill anyways, and they're really just there to help kids get to the fundamental. I could maybe skip straight into fundamentals and work on expansions. Versus if I have a different opposite kind of child, I might actually really need those building blocks. Fundamentals will be important, and maybe I just don't have time to worry about enrichment. I need to just get with all the functional skills and move on quickly. So those are the tools we provide to help people decide what to introduce. And then once you're in the activities themselves, yeah, it's very clear what you're teaching, and there's plenty of teaching points and hints and things like that to help you along the way.
Absolutely.
So that's my really long, drawn-out answer to that question, but it's hard for parents that are just kind of stepping out there.
But there's a lot of support.
Yeah, that's a good point. We offer consultation, and one of our consultants can meet with parents for however many hours a month they want to do it. And they can do video conferencing and phone conferencing and walk them through using skills and help them choose what they're going to work on and all those kind of things. That's an additional thing we can provide. It's an additional fee, but for free what we can provide is we have constant live chatting, and we can do emails and phone calls. So.
And it's remarkable. I just have to say it's remarkable, and I do use it at home. It's remarkable. So I encourage you to check it out, and they can do a free trial.
Yes, there's always a 14-day free trial that you can just get right online at the website.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for being with us. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have a question from a viewer that I've asked Dr. Najdowski to stay and address, so stick with us. Welcome back to Autism Live. We have with us in the studio Dr. Adel Najdowski, and she is the Director of Skills and an amazing resource. I have learned so much from her. And one of you wrote in a question, and I want to share that with everybody right now and ask Dr. Najdowski to address this question. Are all ABA treatments the same? I hear discrete and play therapy a lot, and wondering if both are included in ABA. Currently, we are at a floor-time play therapy school and finding it not enough. Hard to see what they are working on. That and the aides seem new and unskilled. Looking into ABA, but hearing so many things. Can you shed some light on this question? Just found your show and think this is so amazing. Thank you. Thank you for writing in. But so, Dr. Najdowski, there's a bunch of different questions in there. Where would you like to start? Well, the first one is, are all ABA treatments the same?
That's a very good question.
Isn't it?
Yeah. ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, is the application of the science of learning, okay? And we're using it in this case to help teach things to children with autism.
Yeah.
And there is no one specific teaching method associated with it. There's lots of different teaching methods associated. So you mentioned discrete. That I'm assuming you meant discrete trial teaching. That is one teaching method that's considered ABA-based. You also mentioned play. ABA-based interventions should be using something that we wouldn't call it necessarily play, but it's the same idea. Natural environment training might be what they would call it, or it could be incidental teaching. There's a lot of different terms, unfortunately, for it that go around the ABA community, but the whole idea is that are they not only teaching in these really structured ways, which is like the discrete trial, but are they also teaching kind of more in these naturalistic ways?
Right.
So you want to make sure that whatever ABA program you go with includes both, okay? And then also there's other methods that may be used too, like fluency-based instruction and things like that. And all of these things all fall within ABA. So when you ask if every ABA program is going to be the same, unfortunately I don't think so. I think some ABA providers focus in on certain ones. So some of them really like to do the discrete trial teaching. Some of them really like to do the fluency. Some of them really like to do the natural environment training. Others do all of it. And what I would suggest is that if you're looking for an ABA program that's a good program, they're probably using at least both the discrete trial teaching and the natural environment training options.
Okay. And so moving on through that, there's so many things that they wrote in here about that they're doing some floor time and that they're feeling that it's not enough, that there are aides that seem new and unskilled. A lot of times we get people writing in questions saying, how can I evaluate my program to see if it's working? I know that on the Center for Autism and Related Disorders website, there is a page that are sort of questions you can ask yourself, guidelines about, is your ABA provider up to snuff? Is there anything that you would... What I hear are concerns, because if you're saying that what she says is hard to see what they're working on, that to me is red flag city.
That's a big red flag. I've seen at times when I've gone in and observed that in some cases certain providers are not even, I guess, keeping track. There's no record keeping. And so we call that data collection. If there's no data collection, then there's no record of what anyone's doing with your child. So that would be the first thing that I would try to get in and ask them if you can see progress charts or some data on what the child's learned. And everyone should be talking about goals and actually have certain lessons and things in place to meet those goals and measurement towards those goals to show how much progress has been made. And then once goals are met, we're setting new goals. And if none of that's happening, then those are all red flags.
Yeah, really important. And we can empower ourselves to ask those questions. And I would encourage you to check out on centerforautism.com. I think it's under the services tab. Look, there is a specific document that's just about evaluating your ABA program. Really remarkable advice, though. Thank you for sticking with us to answer that. And you brought up something that I wanted to ask you about sometime later on. Another viewer had asked to hear about really effective strategies in teaching math, and maybe sometime we could come in and have you teach us about, is it pivotal response or fluency-based training?
For math, we'd probably be talking about fluency-based training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe sometime we can have you come in and talk about how effective that is, and teaching children how to graph for themselves their progress and why that's really reinforcing to them.
Okay.
I know you've shown that to me before, and it made fireworks go off in my head. Well, you know what? I started to understand what they were doing at school with my son, and then I could capitalize on it.
Yeah.
Really important stuff. We'll save that for another week because we know we have to get you back to work. But in any case, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to answer a couple of questions that you guys asked earlier on in the week of me. So stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back. You're live on Autism Live, and I've got my friend Jennifer here. I'm so excited she's here to help me. She's got a son named Dylan. I got a son named Jeff. We got all sorts of allergy issues. And a lot of you say, what the heck can we do to eat breakfast that's not full of carbs?
And getting my son to eat vegetables.
Yeah. This is a vegetable. So we're going to eat vegetables today. And so what we're making is a zucchini muffin. So let's go ahead and get started. So we just dumped in our zucchinis. You can start with less. You want to graduate your kid to actually eating healthy. We're going to do some eggs. And again, I use the organic cage-free eggs. So there's our eggs. I'm going to add in our oil. Again, I use a high heat oil, and the reason why I use a high heat oil, because when you bake, you want to make sure you're using an oil that doesn't disintegrate, because when oil gets too hot and it's not meant to get hot, it becomes toxic. So you got to be careful with your oils. So there goes our maple syrup, and again, organic maple syrup. What we're going to add next is cinnamon and our baking soda, baking powder to our mix. There's a lot of variations on flours. A lot of our kids are allergic to wheat, so there's a lot of things we can do to make this SCD, specific carbohydrate compliant, or just gluten-free, casein-free, soy-free. And flaxseed meal. Flaxseed meal is a great resource for extra fiber within the kids' diets. We're just going to turn on this fabulous, wonderful KitchenAid, and we're good. It's a great, great looking batter. And what we're going to do is talk a little bit about baking, where almost everything is aluminum, and aluminum can be a problem for some kids, especially kids that can't methylate and take the toxins out with their body. But if you've got, like me, I've got muffin tins, so I have the ability to just simply put in some cupcake holders, and that actually holds that together if I want to freeze it. Hey, nice work. Those look good, but wait till you see them when they're done.
All right.
So go ahead and pull them out. Here are the fabulous muffins. Now, if you've got a sensory kid that doesn't like vegetables, I can already I Spy the zucchini. Remember what I told you earlier. Resolve that simply by peeling off the green layer, and then it will cook literally translucent. Such a nice golden brown. I love how the texture is. We know that the breakfast can be a challenge. This makes that process a whole lot easier for you and your family. I really appreciate all the feedback. We definitely want to hear from you for our next segment. If you'd like us to cook something, or maybe make an old favorite and that's allergy-free, we can do that here on Autism Live. So give us your feedback. You can email us at autismlive@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page like everybody, facebook.com/autismlive. And also you can reach Taka on the Taka website at Taka Now. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for joining us on Autism Live.
We say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back. You know, you guys ask questions from time to time, and every once in a while I'll talk about something that's really unique and remarkable in our lives that's really helpful and useful, not only to me, but a lot of other autism parents. And we've talked about a couple of different products, and one person wrote in this week and said, all right, where do you get these products? And another person wrote in and said, how do you afford to have all these special diets and products? And amazingly, I can answer both questions with one place. So we had to talk about them and do a little shout out for them today. Sprouts. Sprouts Farm Markets is a great resource. Now, I will tell you that they are growing and in more places than ever, so I'm going to first tell you to go to their website, www.sprouts.com. And it's going to be a great resource to you for a bunch of different things, but you can search to see where a Sprouts is close to you. And as I said, there are more and more of them. The first time I was at a Sprouts, I was in Texas, and I said to my niece who I was visiting, I need to find some hot dogs for my child that are no nitrate, gluten-free, organic, chicken. I'm not going to be able to find that at the regular grocery store. Where can I go here to find that kind of thing? And she said, oh, we're going to go to Sprouts, as if everybody knew about Sprouts. I'd never been there before, and it really was a mind-blowing experience. I had such a good time. They practically had to carry me out because I wanted to stay. And they smell good, too. I love the smell when you go into a Sprouts. And a lovely array of organic vegetables. And in this economy, I've noticed that a lot of stores, their array of organic vegetables is getting smaller and smaller, but that quite the opposite is true at Sprouts. Every time I go, they have more products that are organic, really very exciting and very affordable organic products at Sprouts. So really want to encourage you to go there. But I mentioned their website to find a store, but there's another reason to go to the actual store and to go to the website. When you go to their website, they have two little boxes on the home page, and one of them is for weekly specials and the other one is for monthly specials. This is the key to being able to afford more. When you go to the weekly special, you know, most stores run an ad and it runs for a week, and I don't know about you, I always find myself at the store the day that the ad changed, and so I wanted the the thing that was yesterday, or worse, I want the thing that's tomorrow and I can't, I'm standing there and I got to pay more for it because I came too early. I feel penalized for that, right? Well, Sprouts has the perfect answer to this. They run their ads from Wednesday to Wednesday, but on Wednesdays, both ads are applicable. So it's the best day in the world to go. You get 2 weeks worth of specials, really phenomenal deals that you can get on Wednesdays. But there's also and you can check out the ads to see what is featured in different categories so that you know what you're going for. And sometimes they come with your local paper as well, but if they don't, you can get it paperless online. Really easy to use format too. Gotta love that. Then the monthly specials, really remarkable. Sprouts is the place where every once in a while they do everything that is gluten-free in the store is 20% off. Oh, it's like Christmas for an autism parent. It's so exciting, and you can stock up on things. I will tell you that in my local parent support group, I don't even have to go online to look up. I'll just log into my daily digest, and all the moms will say, it's that time. Or they'll say, they're having this on sale, and it's almost like an autism parent meeting. You go to the Sprouts, and you run into everybody you know there because they're stocking up. Really remarkable deals, giving us an opportunity to be able to afford to feed our children with really good products that are within their special diet if they have a special diet. So we love Sprouts, and if all of that wasn't enough, they are a very autism-friendly company that you'll see in April. They have autism awareness things everywhere. They sell the Autism File magazine at the checkout. Don't know any other store that does that. Really autism friendly. So I give a shout out to Sprouts, and I encourage you to go to their website, see if there's one near you. If there isn't, ask them to come. Who knows what could happen. And if there is one there, check out. And by the way, in the monthly, I get all excited. In the monthly, when you click on the monthly, there are coupons. So if you happen to go on a Wednesday when something is on sale and you have the coupon from them, oh, we're talking serious savings. So check them out, Sprouts Farm Markets. We love them here at Autism Live. All right, we're going to take a break, and in this break, we're going to show you the A Word. This is the wonderful documentary being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders following a little boy, Jack Riley, as he begins his early intensive behavior intervention. At this point, he's about 8 months into that early intervention, and he is still 2 years old. He's about to be 3, and we see that a great deal of progress has been made. And earlier this week, Dr. Doreen Granpeche was talking about joint attention. And there's a lovely illustration in this video of joint attention where they show you graphically a moment in which Jack Riley is participating in that joint attention, looking at something, looking at mom, and mom looking at him, mom looking at the giraffe that he's looking at. So a beautiful illustration of that. But watch towards the end too, because we're seeing a shift in this little boy that he is finding looking at and interacting with people as reinforcing, and sometimes more reinforcing than the things in his environment. And it's really changing the look of his face, how he completely moves through the world. Very, very exciting. Take a look. This is the A Word.
Look, good talking. Sassy. Sassy's the bird, yeah.
Independently tacting and joint attention is a big deal. The reason is that tacting is socially reinforced and doesn't have a tangible reinforcer.
Look, good talking. Sassy.
Unlike manding, where the reward is getting what you're asking for. This is why Jack Riley has been requesting items. He's immediately reinforced. Tacting, on the other hand, is making an observation in your environment and then sharing with others what you experience. So the reward in tacting is the attention and social interaction. Kids with autism many times aren't naturally socially motivated in the way typically developing children are. Here, Jack Riley is simultaneously tacting with joint attention. Jack Riley looks at the TV, points, and labels the characters. Then he looks at Jessica to check that she is sharing the experience with him, and then looks back at the TV. A key identifying sign of autism is a child's lack of joint attention. They don't initiate having a joint experience, for example, pointing, or responding to other social cues like following a parent's gaze. The way we encourage tacting behaviors is by first practicing it in a contrived manner, like teaching labels, asking,
Well, what is it? Shoe. Okay, thank you.
We teach them labels so they have words to communicate with. The hope is to fade the prompts until the language happens naturally and often.
The end.
That's the next Lion King. Circle of life.
The end. All right. It's over. Yeah.
Okay. It's all over. It's over, buddy.
You want to play? Do you want to play? Say yes. Yes. Good. Do you want to play? Yes. Okay, here. Do you want one fire truck or two? Two. Two. Okay, here you go. Fire trucks. Fire trucks, yeah. Hey, Jack Riley, one more minute, okay? Say okay. Okay. All right. All right, buddy. Come over here. Come sit down. Ow.
Jessica and Jack Riley are continuing to work on identifying categories since he knows so many labels now.
Hey, mister. That was good sitting, but you gotta face me, okay? Turn around. Turn around. Thanks. Do you want bubbles, phone, or fire truck? Whoa. Say I. Whoa. Okay. Toys. Hold on, buddy. Arrow. I know. Hold on. Ready? Say, I'm ready. I'm ready. Okay. Give me a vehicle. Vehicle. Good job. What is it? Vehicle. Nice. Good job, kiddo. Right. Hold on. Hold on. Ready? Say, I'm ready. I'm ready. Okay. Give me animal. Good job. What is it? Animals. Good job. There you go. Here's another sticker for you. Give me toys. Toys. Nice job. What is it? Toys. Yeah, but what is it? Say toys. No, say toys. Toys. Good. What is it? Toys. There you go, mister. Nice job. Give me animal. Good job. What is it? Animals. Nice. All right. Last one. Give me, hey, look at me. Look at me. Good job. Give me food. Cat. Nice job. What is it? Animals. No, this one. What's this one? Animals. No. What is this? Food. Food! There we go! All right. Here you go. Buffalo. Yeah. There you go, mister. Do you want more Twinkle Twinkle Little Star? More? Ow. Do you want more? Boy. Say I. I want boy. Okay, we're gonna sing first. Head, shoulders, knees and toes. Knees and toes, head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Knees. What's next? Eyes and ears and mouth and nose, head. peekaboo wild, okay? Okay, where's my peekaboo wild? Let me go get it for you. There you go. So silly. He's gotten so much better. He knows the words now, which is really, really cool. And it helps him with labeling his body parts too. So a lot of the body parts I think he learned from the song before we even started on them.
Knowing the song also prepares Jack Riley for preschool. By knowing the words and movements, he will be able to participate in social activities that his peers will be doing.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Right now, I'm so thrilled. We're joined in the studio by Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. He is the head of research and development here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and also the director of the Autism Research Group. Two remarkable titles that you carry. And beyond that, you're just a wonderful wealth of knowledge. And I know so many of you, well, not enough of you have had the opportunity to see Dr. Tarbox speak live at an event, but everyone who does reports back the same thing, that you have a way of speaking about research that makes it accessible for parents.
Thank you.
And that is one of the highest compliments I have to give in life, because you know, I've said to you before, sometimes it's just a little frustrating and a little over my head. But lots that we're going to be talking about today, and not the least of which a little bit later in the program, we're going to be joined via Skype from Lineagen by Rena Vance, who's going to talk with us about some events that an event that's going to be here next Tuesday that I've mentioned to you guys before, that if you're in the Southern California area, you can still register for, and really a greater opportunity for more people around the world to participate in some genetic testing and what benefit that might be to those of us who have children on the spectrum. So we're looking forward to talking with both of you about that, and you and I have talked about that a little bit before on the show. And yes, I am going to let him speak in a minute. Going on and on and on. But in any case, wanted to remind everybody that our entire topic this week has been problem solving. And you guys had written in about what some of your biggest challenges were. And one of the things that really struck me, Dr. Tarbox, was people talking about sleep issues.
Absolutely.
And they were talking about it from both perspectives: parents having sleep issues because of some of the stress that they've gone through, and the fact that if the child can't sleep, then automatically you have two people who can't sleep, right?
That's right, yeah, absolutely.
So I thought maybe we could start with you talking a little bit about sleep issues and research that there may be and what you know about that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, first I'll start off by saying it's not necessarily my major area of expertise, but I have done a little bit of research and a little bit of treatment in the area, and I'm fairly familiar with literature. And it is, first of all, it is very common among kids with ASDs, which I don't need to tell your listeners that. They know that. Very, very common, though, among these kids to have challenges with sleep. And like you say, it really does impact the whole family. Everyone kind of knows, everyone expects this when you have a new baby, right? That the first few months or the first year, you're going to be somewhat sleep deprived. It's going to make you feel kind of crazy. It's going to make you feel exhausted. It's going to be a major challenge, but not everybody knows that those challenges can continue, especially if you have a child on the spectrum. And so really, I mean, we hear reports of, families literally just falling apart due to total sleep deprivation for the whole family. And there's good research that shows that if you don't get enough sleep, it disrupts every major system. It makes, increases depression, anxiety, exhaustion, causes problems for things even like weight loss, memory, learning, I mean, you name it. Sleep is just a core critical function that your body needs, period. So luckily, there are some good treatments that do actually work. Unfortunately, the vast majority of people in the autism community aren't aware of them, which, how often do we say that? And unfortunately, most in the medical community are not aware of sleep treatments that actually work. And so what we usually hear from kids and families that we work with is they've gone to all their major medical doctors, who are specialists in sleep. They do all sorts of assessments, EEG tests, everything you can think of. And still at the end of the day basically say, well, yeah, your child has difficulty sleeping. Right, so which can be incredibly frustrating and frankly just not very practical. So one way to go is medication. Of course, that's what medical doctors do, is they prescribe medication. That's their job. Some medications may be helpful for some kids. However, like anything else, when we're talking autism, the first line treatment should always be less intrusive, right? And so anytime you're talking medications, you're talking about potential side effects. There aren't any medications that don't have at least some potential side effects. So best to always try behavioral and educational interventions first, because generally speaking, they have a much lower risk of side effects. So there are a number of behavioral procedures that do work, and happily it actually does kind of come down to good old-fashioned ABA common sense. Most sleep disorders come down to building up of habits among the family, among the parents and the children, that contribute to disordered sleep or disturbed sleep. So put simply, if you let your kids sleep in your bed, they're going to continue to sleep in your bed. And that's not necessarily just the case with kids on the spectrum. That's with all kids, right? So plenty of typically developing kids end up sleeping in their parents' bed till way older than they really should be. And really, honestly, what it comes down to is the kid wants to do it. Oftentimes the parents want to do it because it feels good, right? Especially if you have a kid with a disability. You want to do everything you can to make them feel happy and make them feel comforted. And sleeping together does that, right? So that's one thing. If your issue is co-sleeping or the child continuing to sleep in your bed, is really what it comes down to is, if you let them do it, they're going to do it, okay? Another issue is scheduling. And so a lot of kids on the spectrum, we don't know why, but a lot of the kids on the spectrum don't naturally want to go to sleep at a reasonable time and don't naturally want to sleep all night. And we don't know why. It could easily be some neurochemical thing going on, some kind of hormones that are too high or too low, or some kind of who knows what, right? So there probably is some biological basis for it. However, once you build it up as a habit, and so a child builds up sort of a habit or a history of being awake multiple times per night, or even being awake up all night and then napping during the day, then what that does is that sets you up physiologically to want to do the same thing the next night, right? Because if you sleep all day, you're not going to be tired at night. So basically, there's a lot of details to it. It's not really this simple, but the most simple advice I can give is it does come down to setting up a good schedule, setting up clear expectations, and having clear rules that you follow through with. And so the one thing that honestly has been proven to work consistently is a clear bedtime and just following through. So if it's time to go to sleep at 9 p.m., then that's it. And your kid needs to stay in their bed, and they don't get to get out of bed, and they don't get to do anything else until the set time to wake up in the morning. So whether it's 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., whatever it is, you just stick to your guns. Now, some of your listeners might be thinking, oh, easy for you to say. You're not the one that has to stay up all night and do it, right? Well, I have been the one who stayed up all night and done it.
In fact, you have when you were talking about the sleep deprivation with a new baby, you have a relatively newer baby.
11-month-old baby.
Yes. So he's not just talking from someplace far, far away. He is familiar with the sleep deprivation.
Right. And it's not common to see this, but some ABA providers will actually go and spend the night at your house for a couple nights to fix this problem, to help you fix it. Because really it is just a matter of you being consistent with your rules and your sleep routine with your child. But it can be extremely emotionally difficult to do that. So if your child is crying and screaming and saying, I want to sleep with you, Mommy, why can't I sleep in your bed? What are you doing to me? You don't love me. Of course the natural reaction is to want to take the child, hug them, put them in your bed. Obviously, right? That's only human. But what that teaches your child is, okay, you don't have to sleep in your own bed, and you don't have to go to bed. You can stay awake with me. All you have to do is cry and scream and guilt trip me, right? So it's funny, my wife actually is also a BCBA. She just did this for a family just a couple weeks ago. She and one of the other employees at her agency went and spent the night at a family's house. They did 2 or 3 nights in a row, actually, switching off between different staff members. And basically, the intervention was very simple. Set up a reasonable sleep schedule and don't allow the child to leave their bed. So if they get up out of bed, you just simply put them back in bed. It's not mean, it's not punitive, it's just disallowing the child from escaping from the bed.
Yeah, I imagine it really important that in that moment the person who's doing it has to be well rested previous to this, which is why having help and support to do it, because you want to have sort of a not, you said it's not punitive, so having a
it's not emotional,
physical reaction, a non-vocal reaction to putting them, you just literally like putting a loaf of bread in the bed with no emotion whatsoever,
That's exactly
which is hard to
no
do.
struggle. Yeah, it can't be an argument, it can't be a struggle. And let me say, too, that you front load this whole process with lots of positive stuff. So before you put your kid to bed the first time, you read a story, their favorite story, you have their favorite food for dinner, whatever it is, lots of snuggling, everything happy, positive. Decorate the room with all their favorite stuff. You know, if they're not used to sleeping in their room, then you get all their favorite posters, teddy bears, whatever. Everything positive you can think of. Maybe even there's stories you can get to read your child about, you know, Jimmy learning to sleep in his bed, you know, by himself. These types of things. Do all that good, happy, positive stuff first. And so what you're doing is you're setting your kid up for success. And then, quite honestly, though, they are going to cry and they are going to be upset. If they're used to sleeping in your bed and not having to go to bed every night for the last 5 years or 8 years or 10 years, they're going to expect that. And just like when you do extinction for any other challenging behavior, when you first do extinction, which just means not rewarding the behavior, right? And when the child's used to that behavior getting rewarded, they're going to have what's called an extinction burst, which means they're going to try harder.
Right.
So if they normally would do a little guilt trip to get you to sleep in their bed, now they're going to do a really big guilt trip.
Right.
Okay.
Because they have to work harder to get what they wanted.
Exactly.
I know, and if I do, I'm going to get what I want. So.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, if you give in then, you've just taught them, no problem. You don't have to sleep in your own bed. Just try harder.
Yeah. Okay. We've got a question that's come in about something else. So I just wanted to check and see if it was about this. If you see me squirming a little bit, it's because I'm hearing all these things and going, oh, guilty as charged.
We've all done it, you know. And again, it doesn't matter if your kid's on the spectrum or not. We've all done this with our kids.
Okay. All right. But I think key, and what you just said that really rang a bell with me, is not having an expectation that we necessarily can do this by ourselves with what we currently have.
Right.
That maybe you do have,
reasonable.
maybe you have to ask your ABA provider. If you don't have that, maybe you have to ask a friend to say, hey, can you come over and do this for me during the day so I can sleep all day so that I'm prepped to be able to do this.
That's right.
You know,
or family members, you know, aunts, uncles, cousins, whoever. If you can get them, you know, on the same page with you, and if they're going to follow through, you know, and be a team player with you, absolutely, any support you can get. But the main thing is, and this is true with any time you're going to do extinction, the main thing is, don't do it if you're not going to follow through. So you need to have a real honest conversation with yourself beforehand and ask yourself, am I really going to be able to do this? Am I really going to be able to follow through? And to what extent, you know, how far is my child going to push it? And can I follow through up to that level?
Right.
And if I'm not sure, don't even do it. Because you will make the problem worse. Yeah, wait until you have more resources, until you have a better plan, until you have more support, whatever it is. But just don't do it if you can't follow through.
Great advice. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and deal with this next question that we've had come in for Dr. Tarbox. So stick with us.
Every child with autism deserves a bright future.
Without further clarification, the Affordable Care Act could actually result in less benefits for individuals with autism spectrum disorders.
We urge Catherine Sebelius to clarify the Affordable Health Care Act.
She can make one change, one little minor change, to make applied behavioral analysis be part of the health care plan.
By signing this petition, you are protecting the health care benefits of individuals with autism spectrum disorders. We need to make sure
that we are heard
and seen.
Sign a petition at autism-live.com.
Here's how you can show your infinite support. Create your own infinity ribbon. What you're gonna do is take a ribbon that's been cut about 8 inches long, and you're gonna grab one end and then twist it, and then take the two ends and join them together, and then tape it together. And then I'm gonna flip it around and take another piece of tape, and what I have is double-sided sticky tape. Squeeze down. You have your very own infinity ribbon.
With ABA,
the possibilities are infinite.
With ABA,
the possibilities are infinite.
With ABA,
the possibilities are infinite.
With ABA,
The possibilities are infinite. With ABA,
the possibilities are infinite.
With ABA,
The possibilities are infinite.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest in the studio right now is Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. He is the head of research and development here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Also the director of the Autism Research Group, an amazing organization that if you haven't visited their website, you should. Let them know the kinds of things that you would like to see researched. It's a great opportunity to be able to do that, and it's autismresearchgroup.org.
Yep.
Okay, great. We had a question that came in while we were talking about sleep, and it's about summer camps. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Tarbox. My question concerns how to narrow down the vast choices for summer camp programs. Shannon, what do you enroll Gem in during the summer months? I have a 10-year-old mainstream son, excuse me, who is asking me already to go to horse camp, sports camp, gymnastic camp. What is the biggest bang for your buck summer program for our kids to help with maturity, speech, and most of all, social skills? So a huge, huge question for really both of us. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to jump in?
Give it a shot. Go for it.
Okay. Well, since you asked about what we do with Gem, I was just sharing with Dr. Tarbox that our circumstance is a little bit different. But during the summer, there are so many different things now that they offer, and we get a catalog that comes, and of course there's some other different flyers that come, and usually in March or April we'll sit down with Gem and talk about, and read the description and say, what are you interested in? And generally there are some camps that just go the whole summer and they do a bunch of projects, but they also have these little shorter camps, and sometimes it's just an afternoon or a week, and they are very specific topics. Like a couple of years ago he went to a Harry Potter camp. And they made wands during the week, and they tried to have it be as educational as possible, but there's a Jedi camp,
guitar camp, archery camp.
And the kinds of things that Gem has asked to do. He did a crazy chemistry camp. Last summer he did a marine biology camp that he loved and is asking for that again. So we really try to tailor it to his individual interests and ask him, what are you into? He did a building a hovercraft one last summer. I'm just trying to think what some of the different things were all week long, and they culminated with a hovercraft that they had built.
That's cool.
It was, and they got to race them, and I've really been led by that in the past. This summer, I might be looking at things a little bit differently and making sure that he gets things that are not all cerebral, that we get a little bit more sports stuff, because I see a little bit of a deficit there. I want to get him in a swim camp this summer too. But I'm really fond of doing the week-by-week camps so that we can trade up things and have it be a variety, and then I give him a week off in between so that he has some time to just be a kid. That's my personal preference, because I feel like so much of the time when we were doing intensive ABA, he still got to have lots of fun and play, but just not that completely unorganized time.
Just downtime, yeah.
Yeah, and so... And some interesting stuff happens when that happens. He did a little film once when we did that, where he just had downtime. He creates Lego things, and for my child, I think that's important. So
he's actually engaged. He's not just spacing out on the TV.
Let's not go crazy, shall we? There's a lot of video game things that happen during that time, but we do try to meter it, and he has some games where he gets to create a level, and we try to focus on that, and we have rules about there are no video games until afternoon, and you have to accomplish these 32 things before that happens, and usually, it's noon, and we haven't accomplished those things, and sometimes we find something to go do at noon, so we can't be home until later.
Great.
The art of distraction.
Keep them productive, yeah.
Well, we try. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you that it's all brilliant and wonderful, because it isn't. And that is time that he gets to spend with Dad, because when I'm here, and I do take a little bit of time off in the summer, but I shared that my husband and I, even now, our schedule is such that we pass each other at the door a lot. That is how we sort of worked out the autism thing, and every once in a while we go, hi, I remember you. That's because you have to make it work somehow, and that's kind of how we made it work. And what it does do is when we do get to spend time together, we're especially appreciative of it, which may or may not. We'll see how that works out. If I'm happily married in 10 years, we'll go, see, that worked. And if I'm not, then we'll know, don't do that. So there's my, now, she specifically was asking about focusing on maturity, speech, and social skills. And what the child expressed interest in was horseback riding, sports camp, and gymnastics camp. So what do you think, Dr. Tarbox?
Well, you know, I think like what you said earlier makes a lot of sense, which is it should be based on what your child actually wants to do, so that you're making sure that he's having fun, he or she is having fun, and that it's developing something he or she's really interested in. So I think that's critical. You know, the other thing to consider is how much social interaction is built into the different activities, and also how much of a fit it is for what your child is already good at or could use some work on. As you mentioned, maybe having Jem involved in some stuff that's more sort of gross motor, sports oriented. You know, my son is the same way. He's 9 and he's extremely cerebral, really smart kid, but kind of not so hot with the gross motor or athletic type stuff. And he tends to get in trouble when he has too much time sitting around just talking and thinking, you know. And it's great for him to use his imagination. That's fantastic.
Right.
But he actually ends up doing a lot better socially when he's engaged in physical activity. So we like to try to keep him engaged in sports as much as possible. He does really well with basketball and with soccer. Baseball, not so much, because most of the time he spends standing around. You know, so he needs to kind of keep moving, you know, and keep engaged in an objective, you know, in a game, and that seems to do much better socially for him. So he's made a lot of friends that way, and I think actually thrived really socially through sort of gross motor, physical activity, sports type of stuff. But of course that's going to vary. You know, maybe some kids that's all they do, and it would be a lot better for them to spend some time standing still and concentrating on some projects. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
It's got to be a good fit.
And I know when we were looking at the horseback riding, we were kind of going through them and saying horseback riding. You were saying, you know, that tends to be you're on a horse and there's not as much time to socially interact.
Maybe less social. But maybe the kids spend a lot of time hanging out, learning before they actually get on the horse, you know, and interacting. Who knows?
Yeah, so good questions to ask. And I was saying the great thing about horseback riding camp is that it works on that core strength if your child is having trouble. Like, I know it can translate into writing skills if they're able to sit up better. But, you know, I would ask them about what is the social program involved. You know, are the kids sitting and having a snack together? Is there an opportunity? In gymnastics, I would think that there's a little bit of time to socialize, and so maybe you're getting both. And definitely the sports, but hard to say. And we certainly have seen trial and error. That there was one camp that they offered these 1 week things that we were excited about. Some of their different topics, signed up for it, and the teachers
weren't so hot.
You know, and then, you know, pulled out of the rest of them and went to a different one. So now I ask parents, you know, what kinds of things do they do? I will be honest that I don't know how reliable, because a lot of times parents drop their kids off and they take what the kids say. I think it's great to hang out for a day and go, what's happening here at this camp?
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
If you can, and not everyone can. Okay, we have somebody else writing in. Okay, they wrote back in and said, thanks for sharing, Shannon and Dr. Tarbox, great ideas. I know my son thrives so much on routine. Otherwise, I see regression over the summer months. And, you know, this is a really big issue that we know, and I think research has borne out that when our kids have an extended break, that we're running the risk of seeing regression.
There actually isn't much research. We've actually been trying to design studies ourselves, and we've looked into the research, and there's very, very little, maybe no research the last time we checked on regression of skills over breaks with kids with autism in particular. There is with typically developing kids and just education in general, but very little research on kids with autism. And if you don't see too much regression, what that means is you're actually seeing maintenance. Like maybe the skills that we're teaching actually are maintaining, you know, and are useful for the child in their day-to-day life. But, you know, right now we don't really know. According to research, we can't really answer that question. My hunch, though, is yes, it's critical to work on stuff over break or you're going to lose it. Just like any skill. If you learn a new language, you got to use it, right? You can't just not use it for a long time. You're going to forget it.
Well, and quite honestly, because I used to teach, and you could see, now when kids come back from summer break, there's usually a month now, where it used to be a week where they would just go over the things that they had done last year. Now they take a month to go over, review everything that they did before, because so many kids, we're talking neurotypical kids here, have lost touch with what they were learning. And what you see in that first month is that they separate the kids into learning groups in that first month. Who is caught up to where we left off? And how they accelerate the pace of what they teach is based on whether they kept what they learned. And it's frightening to me as a parent, you know, during the summer, when I was saying we have tasks, like a list of 10 things that have to be done before video games can be played, there's always something in there that's just like math drills.
Great, yeah.
Like you have to do, you know, this stack of flashcards that are, you know, now we're into division and multiplication or whatever. And we started the state capitals last year. We didn't do very well with that. But, also handwriting, because that's where we're a little bit behind too. His handwriting, his cursive is fine, but the block writing, he should be a doctor. Right? You know, and we try to vary it so that there's some stuff that's, you know, really quick to do and some stuff that's a little more challenging for him, because I just don't want to lose ground.
Yeah,
I'm a little
absolutely.
paranoid about that. But wonderful to remind us that none of us want to see regression. And of course, I recommended last summer that people do, they had a great deal for skills last year, that if you bought 1 month, you got the whole summer for the 1 month.
That is a good deal.
It was a great deal, and we'll have to ask them if they're going to do something like that again this summer, because then you have more ideas of things to do with them.
Much more stuff to work on.
We have to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined via Skype by a wonderful Lineagen representative who's going to be, so together, the three of us are going to be talking about and what the impact it could have for all of us, and why you guys are partnering with them for this really important new initiative. So stick with us. More with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox after this.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, you know, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but you know, we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT,
What
yeah.
did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, you know, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle, and without that, we wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it.
Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get 2 kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear Act Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. You know, we underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Very excited because right now via Skype we're going to be joined by Rena Vance. I hope I'm saying that right. And we still have here in the studio with us Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. So I've got 2 great minds here to talk with us about some really important information for parents. But Rena, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So thrilled to have you here. And I'd like to start with, you work for Lineagen. Please tell us what you do there and tell us a little bit about what Lineagen does.
Great. So Lineagen is a company based in Salt Lake City, Utah, and our mission is to help accelerate diagnostic testing, specifically genetic testing, for children who have a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. So we like for families and doctors to have access to really important genetic tests that may help guide a child's medical management.
Okay, great. And I understand that your Lineagen and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders have come together to create some new research. Is that?
Well, yeah, what it is a clinical partnership.
Okay.
And basically what we've always been wanting to do at CARD is, and with skills in particular, is to put the largest amount of information on autism spectrum disorders in one place in the world. And so what our philosophy has always been is we're going to be able to understand autism spectrum disorders the best if we collect the largest amount of data on every single thing imaginable, put it all in one place, and that is going to just open up opportunities in the future. That's going to allow us to improve ABA treatment, improve the skills system. It's going to allow medical doctors and geneticists to understand autism better and how people with autism learn better. Basically, it's just the essential assumption that we need a lot of data. We need all the data we can get to understand autism because it's a very, very complex topic. So what we've done with Lineagen is put together a partnership where basically it's a data sharing agreement. And so we're going to get genetic data from the genetic testing that they do, which is top of the line genetic testing. And we're going to have the skills data, which tells us about child characteristics and learning rate and, basically child profiles in terms of behavior and learning, and we'll have all of those data in the same place at the same time. So, with family permission, of course, if they give us permission, then we'll be sharing these data back and forth. So it's each family member's personal choice as to whether or not they would want to participate in something like this. Right. But if they do, we believe it's going to be contributing to our ability to basically solve the autism puzzle,
which we're all looking forward to and want to be a part of. But you mentioned that it is completely, you have the option to opt in or not, and I would imagine that your information is kept incredibly impeccably private.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. And so the folks at Lineagen and of course us here at CARD, we have absolutely top of the line security for all data, and all data that are used for any purpose are de-identified, and there's no possibility for anyone's personal information to get leaked or to be used for any inappropriate purpose or anything like that.
Okay, great. And so my question is, I'm an autism parent, and I am very interested in being involved in helping to progress things along. Is there also a benefit for me as a parent, Rena, in having this genetic testing done? Is it going to help me with my son, and how would it help me?
Absolutely. what we know about genetics and autism is that many children who have a clinical diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder have an underlying genetic condition. Some common conditions that many families may have heard about include Fragile X syndrome, 22q deletion syndrome. Those are just two of many examples.
And Rena, they were just showing a picture of the 22 deletion with two children and showing some chromosomes. I have never heard of this before, and I consider myself a fairly educated person, but I'd never heard about this before. And so getting this kind of testing will give me a better understanding of what my child's genetics are and how it's influencing their autism?
Right. And you know, even though you are a parent who knows a lot about autism, you work in this field, you know, there's so many pieces, as Jonathan mentioned, to this puzzle. And I think only in recent years has that genetics piece been given more attention. And that's part of the purpose behind the Lineagen card partnership, is to get this information, this very important information, out to all of the families. And so I'd like to tell you a little bit more about how this information can help.
I would love that.
If a child has a clinical diagnosis of autism and we later learn that can be attributed to a chromosome variation, this 22q deletion syndrome, for example, we're going to have many other opportunities available to us as a family and as the medical providers who work with that child. If we know that a child has 22q deletion syndrome, what I can do as a healthcare provider is look in the medical literature and say, okay, what do we know about kids with this deletion? What sort of medical problems are a higher risk for that child? It doesn't mean they're certainly going to happen, but it gives us the ability to look down the road and to be on awareness for some of those features. For example, there are some heart defects that can be more common in children with a chromosome deletion syndrome. Seizures may be something that could come up down the road for a child with a chromosome deletion. So if we know what some of the specifics are based on a child's genetic condition, we can treat and possibly even prevent them from happening in the first place. So that's one really important reason or benefit that comes with having a genetic diagnosis, the ability to guide a child's medical management. Another thing that may be important for families, I'm sure you know this, I've heard this 1,000 times, no two children with autism are the same. You know, children may have skills in one area and their challenges may be in a different area, and it could be exactly the opposite for another child. And so if we know what the child's underlying genetic diagnosis is, we may be able to talk with parents, be involved in a subset of a support group where I know you've walked a mile in my shoes. You know, we both have a child with this condition, and where do we go from here? So we might be able to learn more from another parent whose child has the exact same genetic condition. And then another reason why it could be helpful, some parents want to know, what is the chance for me to have a second child or even a grandchild with autism? And unless there's a genetic diagnosis for a child, we give very just an estimate of a number. If you were to tell me, Shannon, I have one child with autism, only one child in the family, what is my likelihood of having a second child with autism? I would say it's somewhere between 5 and 20%, but the specifics are going to be based on a number of things that we may not know. However, if we know that a child has autism and an underlying genetic diagnosis of Fragile X syndrome, I can tell that family their chance to have another child is up to 50%. Okay. Or if a family has a child with Angelman syndrome, I can let them know that their chance to have a second child with that condition is less than 1%. So we can really personalize that. And for some families, that's important. For others, it's not as important.
Yeah, and I would think too, you know, I can already hear parents saying, well, I don't want to know that, I don't want to know that, because we just want to have another child. But stop and consider that, okay, you have another child and you want them whether they're going to have autism or not. But if you know that you need to be looking for things that much earlier, we know how important early intervention is, you're Absolutely. Just going to look for those things earlier and be able to help that child earlier. Right. Just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page there. Now, Rena, I know on all the flyers that we've been talking about, there's been something called a CMA, a chromosomal microarray analysis. Explain to me what that is.
Yeah, no problem. So the chromosomal microarray analysis is actually considered by the American College of Medical Genetics the most important test, the first tier test for children with a clinical diagnosis of autism. And chromosome microarray analysis, what that does is it looks at a child's chromosomes. We all should have 46 total chromosomes. They come in pairs, one of each pair from mom and one from dad. And we know that having any missing chromosomes, extra chromosomes, or missing pieces or extra pieces of chromosomes could lead to a variety of developmental and medical challenges depending upon the specific chromosome content. So if someone has a CMA done, we're able to tell that family whether that child has any adjustments, missing or extra pieces to their chromosomes.
Okay, really fascinating. And I want to talk about the financial end of this in just a second, but I'm wondering, do you have statistics about how often when you do this, do you see a genetic component?
Yeah, that's a great question, Shannon. In general, when the CMA is done for a child with autism, there's about a 15 to 20% chance that we're going to identify a change in that child's chromosomes.
Wow.
We also know that if the child has additional medical features in addition to autism, maybe a child has autism as well as seizures and was also born with a heart defect, that's probably going to be higher than the 15 to 20% average number.
Okay, really important information. This is really remarkable. So let's talk about the financial component of it, because it comes down to that a lot in the autism community. Is this something that is going to, what's the cost going to be, and is insurance covering this kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Insurance companies are increasingly covering this test. As I mentioned before, it's only been in the past few years that genetics and autism, you know, the awareness is really there. And that awareness is driven in part by a lot of studies and publications that have come out in peer-reviewed medical literature. And because these publications are mounting up, the stack is becoming higher and higher, doctors are able to go to insurance companies and say, look at all of this evidence. Look at what this chromosome microarray could do for a child. It's important to have this test covered. Of course, every insurance company is going to be different, and we may not know if they're going to cover it or not, but the trend is that they're starting to cover it. As far as cost goes, there are a number of laboratories that provide CMA testing. I'm, of course, most familiar with my own company, Lineagen, and the really great thing that we do is we take the guesswork out of it. We contact the family's insurer before the testing is even done, and that way we know exactly what we're talking about. We're able to give the family very open information before they even decide the test. So we're able to tell families up front what their out-of-pocket would be, if anything. Some families pay nothing out of cost.
Okay, great. So there's no guesswork to it at all. They can contact you guys. You'll find out what the cost is, and then they can make the decision whether this is something that they want to proceed with.
Right, and I should mention too, I know a lot of children who have autism, really any person is sometimes scared to have a blood draw. It's not really ideal. Nobody wants to do that. So Lineagen has actually done a lot of additional work to provide CMA on DNA that's collected from a cheek swab. So we can work with any family's doctor. This does have to be ordered by a doctor, but we can work with the physicians, get a time set up for a cheek swab. Cheek swabs can even be done in your home and then sent to Lineagen for the CMA testing.
Well, I'm very excited about this. I have to say to both of you, I think this is remarkable. And we've mentioned all this week that for people who are in the Southern California area, that some of the Lineagen team is going to be here in-house on Tuesday night, and they can register to go to that event by going to centerforautism.com. But I'm imagining that there are people all over the world that are hearing this, Rena, and saying, okay, that's great. I'm not in Southern California, but I want to know more about this. I want to participate. What do they need to do?
All they need to do is call 888-888 open or 6736. We have a great customer service team who is going to be available to talk with you. We have 3 genetic counselors who can explain CMA in more detail to a family. Maybe a family has a child who has previous genetic testing. You know, all these different genetic tests, there are some other than CMA. Your child may still need CMA even if he or she has had previous genetic testing. So we have people on staff who are really excited to help you understand how this test could fit in with your family specifically. So just give us a call.
And I guess I would be remiss if I didn't mention that you include with this counseling. You are the head of the genetic counseling, so we're not just given these facts and left on our own. You help us to understand what it means and what the next step would be.
Absolutely. We really care about the families who are on the other side of this. And what that means is we're not going to just give you a result and let you figure it out yourself. We actually put a lot of time and effort into the reports we send each family. There are a lot of pictures that help explain the genetic variant. We'll also set up a phone call with a genetic counselor before and after testing to go through your results. That's all included in the price that we bill the insurance company. That's part of that process I explained to you earlier.
Really remarkable. And I imagine as somebody who's at the cutting edge of autism research that this is a pretty exciting thing for you.
It's very exciting, you know, and we really don't know what the future will bring, but we have reason to believe that eventually we're going to be able to, and this is kind of far in the future, but eventually we're going to be able to do a genetic test maybe at birth that predicts to a very good degree how likely it is that a child will develop an ASD. And if they are going to, the genetic test will also eventually be able to tell us things like how likely is he to develop vocal speech? How likely is this child to need extra visual supports during ABA programming? Who knows? You know,
Right.
it really, the potential is wide open, and we don't know. We got to wait. You know, I'm a
Right.
scientist. I have to be skeptical and conservative. And it may be decades before we really have developed tests that allow us to predict with that level of certainty. But I'm quite sure, actually, that in the future, these more research in this area will allow us to be much more effective and to get started earlier.
And when you can start earlier, there's always the possibility that you will prevent some of these kids from actually qualifying for a diagnosis.
Absolutely.
So we could get there ahead of it.
That's right.
Well, that's exciting, is what that is.
I agree.
Well, Rena, I thank you so much. Will you be one of the people coming here on Tuesday?
I will. I'm very excited to come there and meet some of you guys and meet some families who are interested in this testing service.
Well, we're thrilled that you're going to be here on Tuesday. I want to encourage people, if you can come to that event, to make sure you register because there are only limited number of people that the space will hold. Go to centerforautism.com and register to come to the event. And I will look forward to seeing you when you're here on Tuesday.
That sounds great. Thanks a lot for having me. I've been really excited to do this.
Thank you so much.
Great chatting with you.
And Dr. Tarbox, we want to thank you for being here. We're at the end of our time, but thank you so much for being a part of this.
It's always a pleasure.
And I know that you'll be in touch with us, letting us know how this proceeds, and as soon as you have something to let us know, we'll be sitting there with bated breath. And we hope that you have a great weekend. But thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to finish out the show. So stick with us.
When Maddie was diagnosed, I'll be honest, I was very ignorant on what autism was. I knew that autism was basically something that hit boys at the age of 2 to 3. They shut down, and sometimes you think of the typical Rain Man movie. And with Maddie, she was doing all the same signs and symptoms of a typical child with autism spectrum disorder.
Stand up. She didn't even acknowledge us coming into the room. She had barely any eye contact. She didn't interact with her sisters. She didn't really do anything. She just basically lined up her toys, and that was about it. We have a team of 7 volunteers, or 8 now. We have 8 volunteers, including my husband and I. And I'm the team leader, and so I do all the curriculum and get everything ready each week.
Jana was downstairs until 11 o'clock at night working on curriculum, going through 2 different textbooks. And then we, as a group, meet on Monday nights, and we would go through what the curriculum was from Jana. And a lot of times we would go, well, how exactly do you do that? How do you sit her at the table and do this trial base? What Skills has done for us, it's taken that away from Jana trying to figure out the curriculum for one. She can go down, or even our laptop, and she can sit down, and through all these questions, it comes up with the different programs.
At least for me, it was a relief off my shoulders. I was worried that I might be missing something, missing a curriculum that maybe she needs to know, where Skills, they have every possible thing your child needs to know from 0 to 7. They have a program for that.
What noise is this?
Good job!
Every program that we did with her, I knew it was specific for what she needed to learn. Because before Skills, it was a lot of, okay, well, is that really age appropriate for a 2-year-old? You know, because it's not generalized. It's anywhere from 0 to 7. This is what your child needs to know. In most manuals, you'll find. But for this, okay, yep, she should be learning this. And no, she's not 4 yet. She doesn't need to know that yet.
We are so fortunate that Jana was able to attend a conference put on by CARD that opened the door for Skills, and that there's no looking back for us.
We started using the program in November, and it seemed like by January something just clicked, and she has completely kind of came out of her fog that she was in for quite a while.
I have never read a documented case on any child that has not benefited anything from applied behavior analysis, and now with this new Skills and being, you know, like the E version of ABA, I can't imagine it doing anything harmful to their child. It's nothing but exponential growth for us.
To see her now, it just blows us away. I mean, we call her our little miracle child because in 7 months' time, she has just blossomed into this normal, functioning child, and suddenly, we joke about it all the time, like suddenly we have twins.
If you're even thinking about doing it, do it. Because the absolute worst thing you can do is do nothing at all. And even if you use this program and it's just a single mom or a single dad working in the evenings with their child, this program is going to benefit them. It's going to show you where they are, it's going to show you where they need to go, and it's going to show you what skills and how to get there. It is an online book on how to help recover your child.
Thank you all for participating in today's show and all week long. Tuesday, remember Monday is the holidays. We'll be back live Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. And until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.